Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first Retrofit Talks, an event series running in parallel to our physical exhibition here at the Building Centre until the 19th of September. Right, so in a joint venture with the National Retrofit Hub, for those that don't know, Retrofit 24 explores the solutions that are helping us navigate the barriers, uncovering opportunities involved in retrofitting our built environment. As we face pressing challenges of climate breakdown, economic instability and social inequality, this exhibition will inspire you to consider moving past what's stopping us from retrofitting. The tools, technologies and approaches to retrofit our built environment already exist. Now, communities, industries and policymakers must come together to make retrofit a reality. With a commitment to carbon reduction and environmental stewardship, Unyte Group CEO Jamie Bartley will spotlight the benefits of utilising bio-based materials and address the way in which his business is delivering net zero solutions across the sector. Just a short bio before I pass the floor to Jamie. Jamie formed Unyte Group in 2019 with a core focus on decarbonisation in the built environment. Delivering high volumes of retrofit measures with Unyte Energy across eco, GBIS, SHDF, as well as commercial properties. They also provide PAS 2030 and PAS 2035 training via their Unyte Academy. Unyte Hemp are undertaking a DEFRA, an Innovate UK funded research project which is focused on hemp biomass, carbon and soil carbon, with a focus on raising investment to manufacture carbon negative construction and insulation materials from hemp. In terms of our schedule, Jamie's presentation will last for about 20 minutes, after which there will be time for a Q&A. So please do put some thought into appropriate questions during Jamie's presentation. So now allow me to pass over to Jamie to explain in more detail about the benefits of utilising hemp as an innovative energy efficiency measure for the built environment.
Thanks very much, Andy, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining today. So, as at Unyte Group, we're looking to really create regenerative ecosystems which then accelerate the decarbonisation and improve human and planetary health. But that's really our sort of core ethos. And I'll go into a bit more detail about how we approach that. So we have three different ecosystems that we're creating. So we've got a knowledge ecosystem, a solutions ecosystem, and a hemp ecosystem. Within the knowledge ecosystem, we're undertaking research and development. We're also testing and we're delivering training to allow people to transition into the regenerative solutions. And then the solutions ecosystem is where we actually implement those actual solutions that we've designed. So we have Unyte Energy and Unyte Retrofit. I'll go into those in a bit more detail. We also have Unyte Waste and just starting to form Unyte Biochar as well now. And then within the Unyte Hemp ecosystem, we're really looking to scale bio-based solutions from industrial hemp, and I'll go into far more detail about why we're focused on industrial hemp as a renewable resource. So within our Knowledge Academy ecosystem, we've delivered the PAS 2030 and PAS 2035 training, but we've also got an online learning platform, and that allows for continual professional development as well as ongoing competence, because we're really aware that we need to accredit people, and both from an installation and a technical role, but we also need to ensure that they're competent to undertake those works too. So there's ongoing support there when people come through the academy with our training. We try and offer grant and CITB levy subsidised courses wherever possible, and that's something that, again, we work very closely with DESNZ, the Midlands Net Zero Hub, and also locally with various combined authorities as well. So far, we've delivered training to 474 candidates overall, and we're looking to really increase that. So we look to service both housing associations, local authorities, as well as retrofit installers and contractors. And then our retrofit solutions ecosystem, we have Unyte Energy, where we act as a managing agent, and that's across Eco4, GBIS, SHDF and LADF funds. And that's also to enable smaller contractors and smaller installers to be able to come into these funded sectors, because we offer a wraparound service around compliance and ensure that they can ultimately focus on the installation side. We can focus on the compliance paperwork, ensuring that all the elements are completed correctly to stay compliant with Ofgem's requirements, and then we're that bridge between the energy companies and the supply chain. We also work on various schemes where we can offer services around procurement, as well as managing the delivery, and then ongoing compliance support services. So that's really useful for local authorities and for housing associations as well. We work quite a lot with housing cooperatives as well, offering them various different levels of support required on the different projects. And that just really allows us to offer a turnkey retrofit solutions. So far, we've delivered 6,931 retrofit projects across the UK. And that's to date. So we're obviously increasing that. We've got projects underway as we sit here today at the moment. A little bit about our journey then. So we formed the group back in the 2018, early 2019. We undertook our first industrial hemp trials, growing 240 acres of the crop. And that was really to generate accurate data. I wasn't comfortable with the data that was available from a UK perspective. It was really only Canadian and some Chinese data, and it wasn't really relevant to the UK. So we undertook a lot of cultivation, looking at various different variables, different varieties, different cultivars, and different seed densities, and how all of those variables impact on the yield of the overall crop. Off the back of that, we were awarded a Innovate UK and DEF for a research grant, which is a 5.9 million grant overall over 4 years. I'm going to go into that project in a bit more detail later in the webinar. And then we established the Unyte Academy in 2023. And this is all focused on increasing our impact and scale decarbonisation of the built environment. So this little video now that will just give you some of the background as why we're focused on industrial hemp and some of the benefits it can provide. And then we'll go into a bit more detail afterwards around some of the products that we're looking to work with.
Why hemp? Let's explore some of the detail. We drilled the seed in late April with it growing well anywhere in the UK. We don't need any pesticides, insecticides, or even fertilizers on most soils, just sunshine and natural rainfall, which is great for biodiversity, bees, and our pollinators. In its 4-month growth cycle, it will grow up to 4 meters in height, which means all the biomass sequesters huge amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by photosynthesis. Up to 20 tons of CO2 is sequestered per hectare cultivated. Hemp produces 4 times the biomass that forestry would in its 4-month growth period. It can also boost following cereal crop yields by 16 to 18% in a crop rotation. So in August, the harvest commences. It is a very robust crop, so requires specialist equipment. Once harvested, we then leave the straw to rot in the fields. This process breaks down the lignin, which is a natural glue that binds the outer bast fiber to the woodier inner core, the shiv. Then the straw is baled and transported to be processed. The primary process is decortication, which separates the bast fiber from the shivs. The fiber is then further processed into non-woven insulation rolls and bats. The shivs are combined with lime to form hempcrete blocks, which can be used for new build and retrofit. Both products are 100% natural, perform well acoustically and thermally, but also allow for breathability. This breathability ensures moisture and mold do not build up inside the properties. All the products are carbon negative and planet positive at the point of installation. But you can do so much more with hemp as well. Bioethanol, sustainable aviation fuel, textiles, biocomposites, and many, many more, all of which will have a more positive effect on the planet than the alternatives. After all, if we are striving to achieve net zero carbon emissions, we get there far quicker if we use carbon negative materials and products. So hopefully that has given you a deeper understanding of why we at Unyte are looking to build a regenerative ecosystem around hemp. We are always open to collaboration and partnerships. Feel free to reach out to one of our team. Together we can accelerate and scale the impact. Together we are united.
Now look at a little bit around the carbon side of things. Obviously plants photosynthesize carbon out of the atmosphere, and they lock that carbon up into the biomass, but they're also producing oxygen as well during that process, which is obviously what we all need to breathe. And then if we take that biomass and use it in construction materials, we're storing that carbon long term into those buildings. So each ton of hemp actually equates to around 1.67 tons of carbon is sequestered into each ton of biomass. So a high amount of carbon sequestered, which means we can actually make carbon negative materials when we look at the embodied carbon involved, even with the manufacturing carbon emissions associated. And there's also soil carbon as well, because if you look at the size of the plant there, it's around 4 meters tall. Because it's a tall plant, it has a big root mass as well. It's got a really deep taproot, and that taproot will actually access lots of micro and macro nutrients that other crops wouldn't be able to reach. And then by depositing those micro and macronutrients in the shallower soils is one of the ways that hemp improves the following crop yields. But it also breaks up the soil compaction with that root mass as well. So it improves the attenuation capacity of the soil, and therefore it reduces flood risk as well, and it improves water quality because it doesn't need pesticides or insecticides, and therefore it doesn't have runoff into the rivers and streams, which then has a knock-on impact on those ecosystems. So it's really great from a crop rotation perspective and a soil health perspective, because it improves that soil microbiome and its functionality, which also means more successful yielding crops in the following crop yields. So this is a little bit around the Unyte UK project that we're doing. So it's called the Centre for High Carbon Capture Cropping, shortened to CHCX3. It's a four-year project, as I mentioned, partner project, sorry, get my words out. And it's to really help UK farmers capture more carbon and build farm resilience through diversified cropping. We're also looking to support enhanced value chains for industries such as textiles or construction using these biorenewables as well. We've got various different work packages looking at rotational cover crops, perennial biomass crops, food, feed and forage, and also annual fibre crops, which we're leading the work package on, looking at hemp and flax as well. And there's multiple trial sites around the UK that have been growing or will be growing over the 4 years of the project. And we're generating soil carbon data and also biomass carbon data. We've also got a work package that's developing an external wall insulation system that will be bio-based with the National Composite Centre down in Bristol. The project's been funded by DEFRA and it's under their Farming Innovation Programme, and it's also been facilitated by Unyte UK. This is just a look at some of the project partners that are involved. As I said, there's quite a broad selection of industry and academic research partners, and also people focused on policy work as well. So it's got a lot of great work been produced so far. We've had some really interesting data being generated, and looking forward to releasing the full report at the end of the project. So this is a little bit more about the actual process then that was covered in the video. So the hemp's grown in the field. Obviously, we put the seed in the ground around April to May, depending on what the soil temperature is and what the weather conditions are. So anytime around this time of the year. And then you start the harvest usually around August time. And then once the straw's retted in the field, which is the process of leaving it in windrows and turning it 2 or 3 times, depending on the conditions, and the natural moisture and the natural microbial breakdown breaks the lignin down, and then we go into a bale of straw that you can see in the bottom left picture there. Then once you go to the primary processing, the decortication, we get 2 separate fractions. We get a fibre fraction, and then we get the shiv fraction, the little wood chips of the core. The shiv's bound up with a lime binder to then form a hempcrete block, which you can see on the bottom right, and the fibres used to form a non-woven insulation, which can then be used for lightweight internal or loft insulation. And these are some of the other products that we're currently looking to collaborate and work with. So we have a partner we work with for the hempcrete blocks called ISO Hemp, and we've also got a partner that we're working with for the fibre insulation called Indie Nature. They're based up in Scotland in the borders, and they're manufacturing the non-woven insulation from the hemp fibres that are all grown in the UK. So it's a UK-based and manufactured product. And then some of the earlier stage products that we're collaborating with people on, we're working with Earth Plus and C Biotech on a hemp and mycelium sandwich panel, which you can see there in the third image along. And that centre core, it's mycelium, so that's the roots of mushrooms, and it means it's a very lightweight but super flame retardant and also super thermally performing as well. And then the far right picture is a product where combining biochar into an insulative material, which again would allow high volumes of carbon to be locked up into the built environment. So all of these products are focused on maximising the amount of carbon that we can remove from the atmosphere and then lock up as part of these retrofit projects. Obviously, we're undertaking these retrofit projects to reduce the carbon emissions and to achieve net zero carbon. So if we do that with the carbon negative materials, we will achieve that target of net zero a lot quicker. We're locking that carbon up out of the atmosphere into the built environment, as well as undertaking the retrofit to reduce the emissions. So this is a slide here that's looking at the actual thermal performance of a hemp pod. It was done at one of the universities, probably about, I think it was 2012. This research was undertaken. And what you can see on the right hand side is a graph, and that graph is basically showing the interior and the exterior temperature of the pod. So the interior temperature doesn't really change between 15 to 16 degrees, no matter what the external temperature is doing. You can see there's quite large shifts from 5 degrees up to 22 degrees there in certain points, but it still doesn't really change between 1 to 2 degrees on that internal temperature. And that's because of the thermal density of the material. So when we talk about the phase change, the time it will take the external temperature to affect the internal temperature of a building, a lot of insulations will allow heat to travel through, but then lock the heat inside those buildings, which is great in the winter. But if we're going to be trying to keep buildings cooler and cooler, which we will be over the next sort of 10, 20 years as we see temperatures increase, etc., we're actually going to need to maintain the internal temperature when we've got quite high external temperatures. And hempcrete works really well in that respect, in that it will take a long time to allow the external temperature to impact the internal temperature, and that benefits from a summer or winter perspective, and ultimately saving energy all year round by having these materials. And they can be used for new build as well as retrofit, but they can be retrofitted to existing properties. Also, one of the benefits when we use these materials is their breathability. A lot of materials are closed cell insulation that might have been used historically to retrofit cavity walls, for instance, and that closed cell insulation then doesn't allow the moisture to egress out of the buildings, and therefore you get moisture buildup following on from that black mold, following on from that respiratory illnesses potentially, and impact to the NHS and further cost to society. So we can really reduce that by using these breathable materials that allow lots of moisture to be absorbed, and then they'll slowly release that moisture back into buildings. So they control the humidity very well within the buildings, but they also ensure that you don't get moisture buildup and mold issues. So great from an indoor air quality and from a human health perspective, as well as from the biodiversity and the carbon side of things as well. So you can see why we actually focus on these materials, because they can be so impactful overall. And this is just another slide to show some examples of net zero construction. And this is, if we took a passive house today and built it with hempcrete, it would actually cumulatively reach net zero by 2037. If that passive house was built to the same standard but with actual conventional materials, it wouldn't achieve net zero till 2062. So huge difference there, and that's due to the embodied carbon that's been absorbed into the hemp, and obviously then the actual hempcrete block that's got the embodied carbon that's been stored into that building, compared to conventional materials which emit lots of carbon during their construction process or manufacturing process, and therefore have a very high embodied carbon footprint from the properties. So we can apply this exact same logic to retrofit. If we're looking to retrofit buildings to achieve net zero carbon, we need to reduce their energy requirements, but we also need to be doing it with the lowest embodied carbon materials as possible, and in the most sustainable way as possible with regards to efficiency of installation. And if we can do all those key things, then we will be achieving the optimum retrofit in relation to carbon emissions for a property. There are some projects that are looking to use these materials under funded schemes at the moment. There's a SHDF Wave 3 project that looking to undertake retrofit of various different properties within architectural types within London, and we're looking to use these bio-based construction materials to really give the residents, the occupants, all these additional benefits other than just reducing their operational energy requirements and their fuel bills, therefore. So there's a lot of opportunity there, but also there's a lot of need to invest into the actual infrastructure needed to manufacture these materials. Because they're a bio-based material, we need to have very specific equipment for the harvesting, but then we also need to have very specific equipment for the primary processing and then the secondary processing to manufacture these at the right volumes and scales, so we can really supply the level of retrofit projects that are looking to be undertaken across the UK. I mean, the government's looking to double the target from 300,000 to 600,000 properties per year, and as everyone involved in the sector is aware, we are nowhere near those targets at the moment. So there's a huge need to drive both from a training and a workforce perspective to make sure that we've got trained, skilled and accredited and competent supply chain that can deliver the installation of the various measures needed for these projects, but also that we have the infrastructure investment in place to allow ultimately a diversification as well, from farmers to be able to supply into construction and retrofit sectors for materials. Is going to be a great boost to the UK economy, and it's also going to reduce our reliance on imported materials and therefore to reduce our overall emissions across the UK PLC supply chain as well. So we do feel there's a huge opportunity, but we need the government support ultimately as well to be able to build the infrastructure out, which enables to go from the field right through to the finished projects and have all those multiple benefits that I've covered off during the presentation today, right the way through each stage, right into the end use and the occupants who are enjoying the properties they're living in. We've got an exhibition that's running obviously at the moment. We're sponsoring it. It's the National Retrofit Hub and the Building Centre have combined to bring this great exhibition forwards. It's down at 26 Store Street in London, and it's on till September, as Andy mentioned earlier. As you can see there's a few of the other sponsors and partners, and the image you can see in the middle is actually a mock-up that we've built down there, which shows Indie Nature's non-woven insulation and ISO Hemp's hempcrete blocks, but being used in a retrofit solution with a lime render on the outside. And then there's lots more information available down there. There's also case studies. So I highly advise anyone, if you're down in London, pop along to the exhibition. It's a great visit, and lots of really interesting products, innovation and information available there. It's free to attend. So yeah, pop on down. And that's the end of the presentation there. Rattled through that fairly quickly, but hopefully there might be a few questions we can go through as well. If anyone would like to take down my contact details, that's them on the screen there, my email, feel free to reach out. We're always very open to collaborate, support and partner. Like I said, we're trying to offer a turnkey solution to delivery of retrofit. And I'm just going to stop sharing now.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Insightful as always, and some of the stuff that you're doing is just really is commendable. Really interesting to know about some of the other RID things you've got in the pipeline as well, particularly that sandwich panel and mycelium. Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. There's a lot that's being done, and it's good to be able to use Retrofit 25 as a vehicle to promote the great work that you are doing within the space. So congratulations to you and your team for kickstarting that. But yeah, there's we need to be doing more. So that's part of this webinar and the rationale behind the whole exhibition. So thank you very much. So over to some Q&As. Please do use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. So I'm just going to take some questions now, Jamie. First one here is, what is the timeline of growth cycle to harvest of the hemp?
So we will drill the seed into the ground around end of April, early May, and then we start the harvest around August time. So it's around 4 months, 4 to 5 months. Okay. And from a growth perspective, when we compare other biomass sources, if we take trees or forestry, for instance, if we cut down a tree, it will take 30 to 50 years to grow again, and we can grow hemp on the 4.8 million arable acres of land across the UK. There's a huge opportunity there, and with the benefits of improving the following crop yields, but also it produces 4 times the biomass that forestry would in that 4 to 5 month growth cycle. We can get far more materials and product out of utilising hemp than we can if we focus on forestry.
Excellent. We've got one question here. So where's the Unyte exhibition? So Unyte are exhibiting at Store Street, so 26 Store Street here at the building centre. So the products that were as part of the display that Jamie mentioned as part of the presentation are in the demonstration space within the exhibition. So 26 Store Street, London, from, well, now until the 19th of September. Another question here, I think for you, Jamie, not me. Are these hemp blocks tested and certified for permanent structures?
They are. So the hemp blocks are currently being manufactured in Belgium, and they are ATG certified, which is the equivalent to the UK's version of BBA. So yes, they are, and they are being used on both permanent new build residential and commercial structures as well.
Excellent. The process, Jamie, as well. Weather. We love talking about the weather in Britain. How much does that, it seems like an ignorant question, which it is, but how much of an impact does that have, and does that affect the time frame? Linked to the question about when you're planting, is there sort of brackets that you might be able to delay or bring forward, for example, if the weather is conducive to planting? Is there flexibility as far as that's concerned?
Yes, absolutely, Andy. Like anything in farming and agriculture, you are dependent on the weather to a certain degree. So a couple of key variables: you need to have the soil temperature above 8 degrees consistently for the seeds to germinate, and you also need to have a bit of moisture. You only drill the seeds into the ground about 1.5 centimetres deep. So if you've got a ploughed field, for instance, see if it hasn't had any rain on for a while, that top 1.5 centimetres potentially is going to be quite dry. So
Right.
you need to time it around going in just before there's due to be some rain, or just after there has been a bit of rain, once you've got some moisture in the soil. So other than that, it pretty much will grow in any weather conditions. It's a really, really robust crop. We've had years where it's had 40 degrees days thrown at it, and then it's had 90 mile-an-hour winds a few days later, things like that. So I mean, it really will stand up. When you look around, when you've had those sorts of winds, you look around and a lot of other fit crops are decimated in the fields and just flattened completely, and you walk around the hemp field and there might be 10%, if that's been affected by the wind. So really stands up to a lot of conditions very well.
Brilliant. Got a few questions here about hemp blocks, Jamie. So first one is, are there UK EU providers of hemp blocks? If so, in which EU countries?
So ISO Hemp, which is ISO Hemp, and they're based in Belgium.
Okay, and the lifespan for the blocks?
So the science around the permanence of hempcrete, this science has been used in relation to sort of carbon credits, because you can actually look at carbon removal credits from the hempcrete blocks, because this permanence showed is above 100-year permanence in that carbon lockup. But I mean, hempcrete has been used for hundreds of years in France, on traditional old buildings, etc. as well. It's not a new material; it's a newer material in the block format, and that automated control manufacturing process. Traditionally, hempcrete would have been mixed up on site and hand cast, and it still is used in that format. But from a retrofit perspective, it's a lot easier to work with the blocks than it is to work with hand casting.
Got a question here. You mentioned about certification and the approval process, and that is challenging for SMEs or any manufacturers that are entering a new market, or even a more mature market. How have you found bringing a new product into the building control process? Is this particular question, and then has there been a welcome process as part of the approvals journey, shall we say?
It is a good question. It's education is key to it. I mean, it's a material that people aren't as aware of, so therefore you do obviously have to show the science and the data behind it, and the accreditation and test data to show how it performs, etc. But generally, people will get on board once they understand that the performance data is available, that it's accredited materials, and that it's positive materials because of the benefits we've been discussing on the webinar. Generally, they're receptive of the materials once they understand that. So we spend a lot of time educating at the front end, and that's working very closely with architects, end users, developers, and contractors, because each of them need to understand how it can be incorporated. It's a non-load bearing material, so if you're looking at it from a new build perspective, you need to have some form of structural frame. So there's various stages of information that people need to be aware of to really adopt the materials usage. So it is definitely an education piece that we'll start each project with, really.
Brilliant. A couple of questions that have come in about sort of carbon re-release during the manufacture process, and then, can't get away from the fact that if you're getting a product in from Belgium, then there's obviously implications there from the sort of transportation process. Like, how do you sort of negate those queries or criticisms?
No, absolutely, Andy. I mean, there is a very detailed LCA that's in place for the manufacture of the materials. And then again, any carbon emissions is accounted for if there's going to be any claims around the decarbonisation or use of those around the embodied carbon. So that's very accurate that we have to trace all of that. And it's the same for the carbon credit side of things as well. You have to have very robust data sets and checkpoints right the way through for your carbon accounting to be allowed to make any claims around the carbon credit side of things too. So ultimately, it's having very robust data and ensuring that you've got every emission point accounted for in your transaction. It's also the reason we're looking to gain investment and build a factory here in the UK, is to reduce even more of those emissions out of the use of the materials.
Oh, brilliant. Is that long-term planning, or are you trying to sort of bring that?
Look, I mean, we're looking for the investment at the moment, but equally,
Yeah.
I mean, it's circa 20 million of infrastructure we need to build out. But that does allow us to be producing 1.7 million blocks per year, which allows for a high volume of use in both retrofit and new build. And if we're trying to get to the numbers that we are around retrofitting the 600,000 properties, or to build 1.5 million new properties during this parliament, we need to be doing that with the right materials, and therefore we need high volumes of those materials available as well.
Interesting. Linked to that question in terms of timeframes as well, and the scale of the task, where do you see hemp blocks in 10 years' time?
I see them being manufactured probably by 4 or 5 locations around the UK at scale, and being used at scale by mainstream builders and in retrofit projects.
Excellent answer. And then, where is the best place for interested parties to find things like construction details, product data sheets, etc.? Is it via the Unyte Group website, or where
No,
else?
the best place is to go to one of our partners' websites, which is UK Hemp Group. They've got the natural building store, which has got the various product information and pricing available on there. And then also, if there's any architects looking for specific assistance, they've also got in-house architectural practice that can support with detailed design and incorporation of the materials as well. So UK Hempcrete is the company to reach out to, the website to reach out. We work very closely in collaboration with them.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's a few questions from architects here, Jamie. So that should give them the information that they're requiring, which is great.
Again, anyone can
Question.
reach out to myself on my email, which is jamie@unyte.co.uk. And again, happy to supply any information requested or point people in the right direction if it's not something I can supply.
Superb. Another question about carbon here, Jamie. Is the factory embedded carbon going to be accounted for?
It will be, and we are looking to manufacture it using the blocks where possible as well.
So using the hemp that you're,
Which obviously, we'll be importing those blocks from Belgium still, because we'll be manufacturing the facility here to then start producing them here. So we'll be manufacturing our facility from the Belgian blocks where possible. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Cool. We've smashed through some questions in quick succession there. Feel we might need a break there, Jamie. Okay. I think by that nature, unless got another couple more here actually, Jamie. If you're willing to answer some more within the time frame. Where can we buy hemp seeds? Is this question?
Okay, so hemp seeds, you can buy them from a couple of different companies. If this is for cultivation, there's
Of course.
so there's UK Hemp, which is one company which supply hemp seeds, and there's also Elsom Seeds, who are one of the project partners with us as well. You do need a license to grow hemp in the UK, so that's a Home Office license. Hemp is cannabis sativa L, so for us to be able to grow it under license, it has to be less than 0.2% THC, which is the controlled cannabinoid within industrial hemp. The license process is fairly straightforward. We've had some recent changes this year actually in the licensing to make it easier for farmers moving forwards as well, which is good. It's now going to be a 6-year license rather than a 3-year license, and you can grow anywhere on the farm rather than having to identify individual fields. So that just it makes it easier for farmers. But we've supported lots of farmers over the years getting licenses. We've probably achieved 28 plus licenses, maybe even 30. Some for ourselves for our research and trials sites, and then also just to assist other farmers when they want to undertake trials. The farmers really like growing the crop when they try it because it works so well for a lot of the reasons I've mentioned. The big barrier is they can't really then take that biomass and valuise it because the infrastructure for processing's not here unless you're up in Yorkshire, where there's a couple of commercial scale processing facilities at the moment, but unless you're local to Yorkshire, the straw won't travel around the country because the cost and the emissions element of it as well.
Okay. Bit of a technical question here. So what about reaction to fire and part B, use in external facades?
So it's it just performed very well in relation to fire, or its non-reaction to fire, because the limes that the mineral bind, it's lime and some other minerals, but because the shiv's bound up with that lime, it means it really makes it really fire resistant. So it can be used in external facades, etc. And there is plenty of data available to obviously satisfy those testing performance points as well.
Excellent. Keep coming in here, Jamie. The question is, can you repeat the name of the installation product, including supplier, and is there an EPD for this? I think they're probably referring to Indie Nature there, presumably.
So that's it. So it's INDINATURE, Indie Nature. They're based up in the Borders in Scotland. They have got an EPD and they have a BBA certification on their products as well.
Big shout out to the folks at Indie Nature there. Okay, I think that might be us, Jamie. So thank you very much for your time. Really insightful. Appreciate your support and the great work that you're doing within the space. And it's been really illuminating to understand the impact and the process that actually takes place to deliver what you're doing from a bio-based material perspective. So congratulations to you and the team again. In terms of Retrofit 25 and our events program, we have another webinar next Thursday, same time, and that is with Discrete Heat. Ethan Wadsworth, the sales and marketing director there, and they'll be talking about their innovative product, thermoskirts. And then the following week after that, on Thursday the 22nd, will be another webinar with Siat and Barry, the managing director of Corey, talking about architectural technicians and their importance and their role within the retrofit space. And then our in-person retrofit meets event will commence again in early June. On the 4th of June, we'll have a knowledge share, followed by 11th of June, focusing on carbon materials. And on the 18th of June, we'll have a session on innovation within the retrofit sector. So thank you all for joining us, and especially to you, Jamie, for your help and assistance in delivering this webinar today. Thank you very much.
Thanks from me, Andy. Thanks for everyone for joining.
Pleasure.